to go. Clear. Damn.
3 months ago, Iraq's National Museum was looted and thousands of priceless relics stolen.
Careful, trigger, it's heavy. Those are all discarded old coins.
And they're not in perfect condition, so they're not on display.
Acting as detective at the museum is this American task force, made up of Treasury, FBI and other federal agents. Steve Moxeri is an American customs agent, investigating this crime against history.
This is a huge area. It's the biggest vault in the downstairs area in the museum, and it's virtually untouched. The only area is the corner in the back where all the little valuable coins, amulets, pinwheels, and those of the like that were taken. So we know that area was specifically hit by the looters and hasn't been touched since then, and because of that, we're processing the area as a crime scene, and we've got the Army CID unit in here, that's Criminal Investigation Division, and they're processing the area for fingerprints and other items of evidentiary value.
As yet, no one knows who the thieves were, or even how much was stolen. The agents believe that the looters had inside knowledge, so today they're fingerprinting the museum staff.
Somebody had specific information to go to that location. It's obvious because no other spot in this magazine was touched.
If the American forces had secured the museum a week earlier, the tragic events that unfolded here may never have happened.
The U.S. is now guarding the entrance to Iraq's National Museum. But the damage has already been done.
Televised scenes of the empty museum and the grief of the museum staff became a symbol of America's failure to protect the country it had occupied. Reports had as many as 170,000 artefacts stolen. The Americans are now stressing that the damage is not as bad as first reported. Col Matthew Bogdonas is in charge of the investigation.
What we found, fortunately, that was a gross and perhaps irresponsible exaggeration on the part of those individuals making those reports. In fact, what we find are numbers significantly below that. I do want to stress, though, that numbers really cannot possibly tell the entire story. The loss of a single piece of our shared heritage is an absolute tragedy.
When the dust settled, it became clear that most of the pieces had been put away for safekeeping. But the museum itself was trashed, and there are still thousands of relics missing.
At the beginning, when I saw this destruction that was in the museum and these pieces that were taken, I felt that my life was finished. I felt that's it.
Donnie George is the Deputy Director of the museum. He's worked at the State Board of Antiquities for 25 years. To George, the museum and what happened to it is personal.
It's something like a shrine, maybe, even for me. Sometimes when I have some spare 1 or 2 hours, I just come from my office and just walk here or sit and wonder these pieces. No, it's very hard now to see this destruction to the museum. And one of the major damages, of course, for the museum is what they have taken from here. Here was the Warka vase.
This alabaster vase from nearly 5,000 years ago depicts the Sumerian philosophy of life.
And it was on this stand. It's a priceless piece.
There's a Tel Baba at the side of Dare. Ancient Dare.
Someone who understands the importance of this collection is Dan Potts, a professor of archaeology at Sydney University. He's come to Baghdad to offer Donnie George his support.
You see, it's a
Look, I think most people have no idea what Mesopotamia was all about. You know, they might know a little bit about Greece, a little bit about Rome, but they have no real understanding, even though they hear the term cradle of civilization bandied about. They don't really get the point that this was the place where the first cities arose, where writing was invented, where the first legal codes, first mathematics, first empire, all sorts of things, first irrigation system. And, you know, it's an unbelievable 4,500 years of urban society.
Here's where they took the vase of the
Yeah.
It's here.
This is the first time Potts has been able to see many of these relics, which weren't easily accessible during Saddam's time.
So this is what the throne room and the big apartments of the Assyrian palaces would have been like. These large life-size figures in a pictorial relief all the way around the room to overawe, sort of shock and awe the visitors, the official visitors coming to see the Assyrian king. No doubt then about who was master of the world, that's for sure. These are, you know, more than just an artifact. These are really seriously important pieces of art and craftsmanship, and from 5,000 to 5,000 years ago, or 5,500 years ago, some of this material. So it's
a great loss.
Pretty hard to see.
Pieces up, and they're shooting artillery pieces in direct mode.
Donnie George says the US Army had a list of sites to be protected during the war, and that the museum was second on this list.
I believe so much if the American forces were here, they would protect the museum. There might be some people, looters coming from the neighborhood. For that we were prepared, but as for the museum and with the American forces around, and it was looted, that was something we never had in mind, really.
While the looting of the museum was underway, the American forces had their tanks across the road. When resident archaeologist Messin Kardem saw the crowds of looters gathering at the gates, he went to the soldiers for help.
فانيلة وعودة وسويت مثل نقول علم أو علامة السلم مثلا. قلت له يابا احنا شغلة شغل جماهير فالمتحف هذا راح ينباق. فقال لي ايه يابا صار هسه يصير شيء. ماكو رأسا يعني خلال ربع ساعة صار اقتحام هناك. لا يعني بعد كده بعد كم يوم الامريكان وصلوا للمتحف؟ بعد ورا اسبوع يلا اجوا. After a week. After 1 week.
Many say that the US Army could have done more to protect the museum.
Are any of those people engaged in the fighting? Have any of those people ever engaged in the fighting? Are any of those people here to see how the Iraqi Army and the Republican Guard violated international law by creating firing positions in the compound? Those questions are born of ignorance, usually from someone in the comfort of his living room.
The Americans maintained that firing from the building had held them back.
This was a battleground. Would you like your 19-year-old brother to come here and defend against this in order to protect some antiquities? I don't think so. It is our responsibility to protect them, but it is our greater responsibility to protect human life. This was combat. Okay, we're done. Thank you. You have anything else?
Donnie George stayed at the museum for much of the war and insists that the fighting was over before the looting began.
Or if there was any kind of firing on Thursday, how would people, hundreds, gather in front of the museum just to come and enter the museum? If there was a real fighting still on Thursday here. If I were there, I would bring my tank in here without waiting for an order. because its museum is beyond any kind of orders. You see, it's not just protecting one building, it's protecting one building that contains symbols and artifacts that belong to the humanity. This was not Saddam's museum, it was the museum of mankind.
Looting continues throughout Iraq, despite the presence of coalition forces. This morning, Colonel Bogdanos received a call about looters in the museum's manuscript centre.
Dave! Ingoff! You guys stay in the car! Secure this building front and back inside. Dave, Watchman! Secure the front!
We were informed a few moments ago that there were individuals in this museum attempting to loot it, so we got here, and whoever was here is gone when we got here.
Fortunately, a group of concerned Iraqis had already taken the welfare of the manuscripts into their own hands.
Backing it up.
Usama Nasser, who is in charge of the collection, put 50,000 manuscripts away for safekeeping in this bomb shelter before the war.
المخطوطات لها قيمتين، القيمة المادية كأثر من الآثار المنقولة، ولها قيمة حضارية بما تحتويه من العلوم والمعارف والفنون والآداب وكل ما أنجزه العقل العربي. والمخطوطات هي رمز للتواصل الحضاري بين أجيال الأمة من قبل 1400 سنة إلى الوقت الحاضر.
Nasser wouldn't let me in to see them. He's hesitant even to let the US troops near these treasures.
سكان المنطقة لهم ارتباط كبير جدا بجذورهم الحضارية والتاريخية والدينية والإسلامية وغيرها والعربية، فقرروا عدم إخراج أي مخطوط من الملجأ إلى أي مكان، وأخبروا الأمريكان قوات أمريكية أنه هم يحمون هذا الملجأ بصدورهم بأنفسهم، وهم الآن يحرسون الملجأ ليلا ونهارا.
Local residents of this affluent suburb have already thwarted 3 looting attempts by firing at thieves and burning their car.
Now, some thieves come from this place and they try to block the door inside so that they face them by force, and we shot them.
Along with Usama, Ahmed Kazem, a school teacher, has arranged for the local community to guard the manuscripts, rather than have the American troops in their neighborhood.
This is a nice place, a nice city, you understand? And we're afraid that there are many problems will happen if there is an American soldiers here. So that we say we don't need any security. We will protect these treasures.
Back at the museum, the employees are frustrated with the slow progress of the investigation.
Please, we are getting everything we can. If you have any information about where other items are...
We don't know where are they.
I know, that's what... Please.
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
That's what we're doing. Day by day, we're looking, we're searching, we're trying to find everything to return them to the Iraqi people. Listen to me.
As a major part of their investigation, the task force have started an amnesty program, encouraging the return of looted relics, often in exchange for payment.
As you are undoubtedly aware, the process of recovering stolen art and antiquities can take decades. How often does a Van Gogh turn up after 40 years or a Rembrandt after 100?
So far, around 1,000 items have come back. But perhaps of even greater concern than what has happened at the museum is the current plunder of archaeological sites throughout Iraq. Donnie George is inspecting some of these illegally excavated relics, now being sold to the museum under the same amnesty program.
It's all good stuff.
It's all good stuff?
Yeah.
Do we know what site this came from?
but the majority will probably end up on the international art market. Now George is slowly putting the collection back together, albeit with some gaping holes.
As for me as an archaeologist, it's to lose one piece that's about more than 5,000 years old, that was crafted by an Iraqi, by a Mesopotamian in this land, and we had it here and it was displayed in one of the galleries, and thousands of people used to come and see that piece. And now I believe one of these very important pieces, nobody will see them again.
The toll now stands at 32 major artefacts missing from the gallery floor, along with thousands of pieces from the storerooms.
I would say there's no money in the world can buy these things. But, I feel that these pieces will be insulted if you put a number or a figure for them. They're priceless pieces. Can never buy these things.
Incredibly, some of these major pieces have been recently returned to the museum, including the famed Warqa vase. With much fanfare, the museum opened last week for just one day to showcase some of the recovered items.
The wounds are little by little healing. I myself really don't like to open these wounds always. What I would, as I said, I'm a positive man. I would always like to forget for a while what had happened. And because if we just stay and blame each other, the Iraq Museum will not come up again.